A bathing scene. A mounted policeman. A riverside adventure. For his new series, Slinkachu spent the past year installing and photographing these scenes in unexpected corners of London.
For this series, I was interested in finding the small pockets of nature within a city, like the weeds and the moss, and trying to make those look beautiful, almost like a landscape painting or photograph. It's only when you pull out you realise the context.
The Andipa Gallery in London has exhibited works by renowned contemporary artists such as Damien Hirst and Banksy since 1967. They first started working with Slinkachu in 2007, and since then they've regularly shown his unusual artworks in exhibitions around the world.
I think Slinkachu's work is very difficult to label, partially because it's fairly unique, and partially because it straddles so many different genres. So it's photography, it's installation, it's miniaturism, it's street art, it's urban art. It really is quite very difficult to define.
Slinkachu's artworks uses figurines which he paints and moves into position. His props are everyday objects. To find the perfect location for each scene, he often has to walk around London for several hours. Once he's found a suitable new home for his little people, he creates the scene, photographs it, and leaves the characters to their fate. But many passers-by don't notice his work at all.
They look very cool because they're small and unusual. But I wouldn't have noticed them if you didn't point them out.
So I just love the skateboarders and the little story that's told. You know, one waiting and one skateboarding on this little abandoned orange peel.
So how does Slinkachu feel about leaving his creations behind?
A lot of the time in my images, I'm trying to portray the figures as being lost and alone, and by walking away and leaving them, by abandoning the characters myself, I'm kind of a cause of that, and I'm helping that happen, which I quite like. It ties in with the whole idea of my images, I guess.
Since 2006, Slinkachu has left his figures in many cities around the world, like this one in front of the Reichstag building in Berlin, and this one in Moscow. For his new series, he returned to London. This installation explores cliches about different areas of the city, as well as landmarks and political events like the 2011 riots. He also creates scenes for charities like Britain's Royal National Lifeboat Institution.
I used to say that I didn't think my work was that political, but I have to say as I've got older, it has crept into the work more. I don't set out to do it too much. And I try and leave the images relatively ambiguous.
Visitors, young and old, have come from around the world to admire Slinkachu's miniatures. His tiny figures have thousands of fans, but the scale and complexity of his work is growing, like this new installation. So what does the future hold for his little people?
I think the next bigger show that I'll do, solo show, might not necessarily use the miniature figures, but the idea I've got in my head still uses miniatures in some way, so just not necessarily figures.
For now, Slinkachu fans should pay attention to the city around them, and maybe they'll discover one of the little people on their own.